I'd like to welcome Anand Chandarana, who is a Chartered Tax Specialist with RPGCC. Hi, Anand. Would you like to let everyone know a little bit about you?
Hi, Gary. Thanks for inviting me along to this Q&A session. So my name's Anand Chandarana, as you say. I'm a tax director at RPG Crouch Chapman, RPGCC in London. And my background is I've basically been, as you say, a chartered tax advisor for coming up to sort of 20 years. And my experience in the firms I've worked at has been largely owner managed businesses. So all the sorts of things you would encounter essentially from private businesses, all those sorts of aspects and issues um, in terms of growing a business, starting a business, exiting a business. So those are all the sorts of things that we deal with day in, day out. And we've seen all sorts of aspects of those things. All of those issues that one might encounter in these types of matters, we've encountered them before.
Well, it sounds absolutely perfect, Anand, and ideal for today's Q&A. For those of you who are subscribers to our YouTube channel, will know that Anand and I have previously run Q&A in the past with lots of tax changes recently. We felt you would hopefully get value from a follow-up. First of all, the autumn 2024 budget has affected acquisitions in the IFA sector in several ways, including changes to capital gains tax, business asset disposal relief, and indirectly employers' national insurance contributions, business property relief, and pensions being included in IHT calculations. We are finding that these changes have and are impacting the timing of deals, the type of deals that happen, and the number of deals that happen. So as a leading broker in the IFA M&A space, we completed many deals prior to the 30th of October, which enabled clients selling their businesses to crystallize their tax position at pre-budget rates, something that these individuals are very grateful to, having locked in some favorable rates with business asset disposal relief at 10% for the first 1 million and CGT at 20%. So Anand, how did the budget impact RPGCC on M&A deals?
Yeah, we had very much a similar experience to you. We had a massive uptick in demand for individuals trying to sell their businesses in pre-budget. If you cast your minds back to even pre-election, there was a lot of talk, and Labour kind of ran on the manifesto of, they'd have to obviously look at the books. They weren't going to be, as much as they tried to commit to no income tax rises, national insurance rises, etc. Clearly, there was, I guess, an elephant in the room there about capital gains tax.
Yeah.
So everyone had determined that if they were going to change anything, it'd be capital gains tax. So that was in the run up to the election, and then obviously post-election, very quickly they moved to again warn the public that tax rises were coming. So that drove pretty much all of that demand that we saw. Our corporate finance team, who obviously would have dealt with a lot of deals last year, had their busiest ever year.
Yeah. And I think you'll probably find, I mean, people would come to you more if they had a concern about the tax. We found that a lot of our sellers seem to have had their heads in the sand to a degree. Um, Obviously, once the new government came into power, there were lots of those sellers, particularly those at that right age that are looking to sell, suddenly were frightened, I think, about how quickly that budget was going to happen. We didn't know the date at one point. And so luckily, we were able to do quite a lot of deals in that time. And we worked very hard with lots of acquirers to make sure that we got the processes done. And it was literally touch and go on some of them to get those completions done before the 30th. But we luckily did. You look after some ultra high net worth individuals too, Anand. How did they react, firstly, to the change of government and sort of pre-budget, and then also tell us a little bit about since the budget's happened as well?
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, this is one of the times where these tax changes are relatively well trailed. I know there were a few conditionals to them actually being implemented in terms of, Labour winning the election, etc. But I think people could see what the direction of travel was. So your ultra high net worth individuals are quite well informed and started to make plans for let's say, gifting into trust. And for, I guess, just general inheritance tax planning, looking at their assets and think, actually, is this an asset that I need? Is this an asset that's just going to grow in my estate that I was never planning to touch? Pension schemes, that was one of the areas where obviously there's been very large changes and it has caused people to revise what they thought they could do with their pension pots because pre-budget it was as much as anything an inheritance tax planning tool, very useful, that you would get your income tax relief on the way in and that pot could sit there and would be IHT free if you didn't ever need to draw on it and you could pass it nicely to the next generation. Um, but unfortunately, since the budget, that option is no longer there. So I think pensions and in general business property relief have been the two big areas that we've had
Yeah.
lots of discussions with our clients about. Again, given our client base is highly entrepreneurial and owner managed businesses, that is the sort of the type of matter that's going to concern them the most.
I think you've said to me before that quite a lot of ultra high net worth individuals have also started to move abroad as well. And that worries me, Anand, because, that is substantial tax revenue that is leaving, isn't it? And it's about balancing those books.
Yes, absolutely. You're quite right. I mean, I think it's when you look at recent budgets prior to this last one, they've been fairly consistent, fairly benign. There haven't been massive changes, certainly not massive tax rate changes. Sometimes there's technical changes. And this is the first, I think, really obviously tax raising budget, I think, that we've seen in a long time. And I think it's really resonated with ultra high net worth individuals who maybe are a bit more flexible about whether they stay in the UK or not, or whether they grow a business in the UK or not. So you're quite right. We've dealt with a number of clients who are certainly considering moving abroad because that takes this uncertainty about this last budget and actually what's to come as well. It takes it out of the equation. So we've seen a lot of people thinking about UAE for various reasons, but there are also parts of Europe where they have more favorable tax regimes. We've had people asking us about Italy and Malta, and I think this is probably a change in mindset that we wouldn't have had we not had the pandemic, because a lot of these people running their own businesses will have probably seen their employees working from abroad or working from home and being stranded and actually realizing you can choose where your base is. It doesn't have to be in the UK. You might be British. Speaking English is an international language, so there's a lot of places you can settle
Yeah,
around the world and run your
yeah,
business from there. If you haven't got a manufacturing plant, then you don't really have any restrictions to move anywhere.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's a small world, isn't it? And
Mm.
with communications and transportation, it is easy to move.